Hey everybody, it is Tom Sheehan here with your Greater Boston real estate market update. Quarter one of 2025 is in the books. We're going to be talking about how the year has started off and then what to anticipate as we head into quarter two of 2025 here in Greater Boston. And we always start at the median sale price. The median sale price of a single family home in Greater Boston after the first quarter of 2025 was $979,527. Someone really gets specific on that sale price, which is up 8.8% from Q1 of 2024. And a quick reminder, we do year over year analysis to kind of give us a sense for where the market is because our real estate market is so seasonal. And just for some added perspective, that number is up 20% from the Q1 of 2023, which is just continued reflection of our single family market here in Greater Boston. It is just crazy. If you look at if you made a line starting 2017 Q1 and made a line, connected it to Q1 of 2025, it is just straight up and very vertical. So nothing new, nothing has changed in the single family market, still very competitive, and the prices continue to go up. When we look at the condo market, we've seen this continued trend where we see some separating of the condo market from the single family market. While the single family median price went up quite a bit this year for condos, when we compare Q1 of 2025 to Q1 of 2024, pricing's about flat. It's up about 1% to $746,000 from $740,000 last year. And same story if you look 2 years ago, the median price of a condo is up 6.7% from 2023. And a reminder, the single families are up 20%. So continue to see the separation of the condo market from the single family market here in Greater Boston. And if you watch these videos before, you know that it all comes down to inventory, supply. And while our supply is up a little bit from last year, we haven't seen any dramatic gains. There were 10% more single family homes listed for sale in Q1 of 2025 when compared to Q1 of 2024, which is better than we had last year when we were just flat. So as you can see from the chart, we're hoping to be up in this range and we're down in this range. So there's still time. Q2 is when we usually see the most number of listings. But again, it doesn't look right now like we're going to see any crazy inventory gains in the Greater Boston single family market. And we get to the condo market, similar modest gains in the amount of inventory. So a little bit higher than single families. We saw 12% more condos listed for sale this quarter of 2025 when compared to 2024, and just 12% more than we saw 2 years ago. So again, the last 2 years were really dismal for the inventory in the first quarter, and we've seen some gains, but again, not enough that's going to really satisfy and put a dent in the pricing, at least significantly. And then we get to active inventory. Let me move my head out of the way here. But you can see we're talking 2017 right here. We were seeing inventory levels up here. In the last few years, they've been down here. And some good news is we've seen more building up of inventory versus new inventory. So active listings is up 17% from 2024's first quarter. So being up 17% is a good thing, and a little surprising that it's so much higher than the new listings, but I think it just speaks to buyers being more discerning and being more selective with the houses that they're willing to buy instead of some massive gains that are going to really put a dent in the market. And again, the condo numbers are pretty similar to the single family numbers. We see an increase of around 20% year over year and 18% from 2023. So again, we have some good inventory gains here. This is back in 2017, 2018, and we're getting a little bit closer to that as we get into these last couple of years. And I mentioned this many times, but this represents COVID when everyone was trying to sell their condo and move into a single family. So this was that blip in the hugely increase in the condo inventory. So we're getting a little bit back to the pre-COVID inventory days for condos, which it's not like prices weren't appreciating then, but at least it's not as dismal as we've seen on the single family front. And then we have days on market, and days on market is down slightly from where it was in Q1 of 2024, down 3%. Homes are still selling very quickly. They're getting an accepted offer within 2 weeks, oftentimes much sooner than that, when you consider that you always have those few properties that spend months on the market to kind of pull up that number, you can see from the graph, this is much lower than the pre-COVID years when the market was still crazy, but not to the same level that it is right now. And we look at the days on market for the condos in Q1 of 2025, it was the same as it was in Q1 of 2024, so 20 days. So a little bit longer than the single family market. And then we look at the number of sales. So how many homes actually closed in the first quarter, not necessarily were listed in the first quarter. And those down slightly from Q1 of 2024, down 4.7%. So we saw a little bit more inventory and had a fewer sales. And I think that's reflective of some buyers just being priced out of the market and not being able to do anything and not really loving what they see is still available for them. And condos were up very slightly, 0.6%. So a few more condo sales this first quarter of 2025 when compared to 2024, but still below those pre-COVID years. And if there's one driver of the market that isn't the supply, the number of homes listed for sale, the inventory, it is mortgage rates. And so here's a mortgage rate graph of the past 3 years. So this is post crazy low rates that locked everyone into their properties at really cheap numbers to kind of give you a sense of where we stand now. So we had this really big peak in the end of 2023. In 2024, 1 year later, we saw kind of our lows, and that's when we saw a lot more activity in the mortgage market, mortgage rate market. We bumped up here in January, and as you can see, we've come down a little bit, and that's where mortgage rates are trending. So we're not to these super low rates. We're not sub 6, but we're tracking there. And with all the economic news that's been in the news right now with the tariffs and its effect on the stock market, there's reason to believe that we might be getting mortgage rates continuing to trend down here. And what we've learned from the past, especially as recently as in October of 2024, when the mortgage rates do go down, we do see more buyers and we see more motivated buyers, and any inventory that's lingering on the market tends to get consumed very quickly. So while lower mortgage rates would be good for buyers in terms of their monthly payments, it is also going to increase the competition on an already low inventory market. All right, Tom, so what does that mean? Well, if you're a buyer, use this time to learn the market as quickly as possible. Things are going fast. Things are going quickly and for expensive. So you need to understand, okay, this house that you are interested in, that you didn't end up putting an offer in for whatever reason. Did you learn what happened there? Were you surprised by what happened there? Why it might have been appealing to someone else at that price versus not? Helping you understand, so when the place that you do want to make an offer on, you understand what it's going to take to secure that property. You also have to realize the inventory environment. We are entering the second quarter. This is usually when we see the most homes for sale. This is it. After June, the number of listings coming on the market falls off a cliff, and you're just not going to see anywhere as much. So sometimes the amount of listings you're seeing right now doesn't seem like a lot, but oftentimes it is when you're going to see the most. So we are seeing depressed inventory. We're seeing a little bit of relief, but not a ton. So understand, if you really want to buy this year, these next few months is when you're going to see the most homes listed for sale. And lastly, just continue to identify what is really most important to you. In a low inventory market, you're not going to have a lot of choices. It's very unlikely that the perfect home is going to come on the market. And if it does, you're going to have to probably compete with a lot of people to get it. So really being able to identify what the most important factors in a home are to you, so that you can evaluate the homes that you do see on those basis and not get distracted by either some pretty things that ultimately aren't important to you, or some things that aren't ideal, but again, aren't super important to you. And if you're a seller, here's what you need to know. We're getting into the spring. It's the early spring when you tend to see some really crazy stories. So it's important that you don't see what happened with your neighbor's home that sold and expect the same exact thing to happen to your home. There's a lot of variability in the market. Market timing is important. We're seeing a lot of buyers. You get some burnt out buyers, you get some buyers who are desperate, and a lot of different crazy things happen in the market. And you just can't expect them to happen the same across the board, even if it's for very similar homes. One of the biggest mistakes that sellers make is that they hear that an offer got a house got 15 offers, and then they see the sale price and they fail to recognize that the sale price represented one buyer. Those other 14 buyers who made an offer in that house may have been offering much below that number. So don't get too tricked by what a final sale price is, because you have to understand that is what one buyer was willing to pay, and likely the buyer that was willing to pay the most. What all those other buyers were willing to pay might be a better idea of what the actual value of that home would be a second time around. Also recognize that it still matters what your property looks like. Mortgage rates have come down, but they're still high, so buyers are really discerning. They don't want to have to do a lot of things when they move into the property after they're paying so much to buy the property. So taking an extra week or two to make your property look just right and more appealing usually is going to have a great effect on your success of the sale. And lastly, understand market timing. We just talked about it. We are in the spring market. So if you plan on selling but are thinking in 4 or 5 months, well, that's when we've transitioned to another market. Usually the peak selling time is April, May, and maybe into June, depending on where you are. So if you've been thinking about it and you want to do it this year, accelerating that timeline and trying to do it in the next couple of months usually is going to result in the best outcome for you. Now, it's more important that the timing aligns with what your needs are, but understanding market timing and where we are in the market is very important to have reasonable expectations. So that's your Greater Boston market update after Q1 of 2025. I'm really anxious to see what happens here in Q2. Lots going on in the news, lots going on in the economy. And while the economic news might scare some buyers away, I'm telling you, if interest rates hit low sixes or even sub 6%, it's going to bring out a lot more buyers than we're scared away. And here's just to hoping that we see some more inventory, because a low inventory market with a lot of demand isn't really fun for anybody, except, of course, if you're the seller of the home that all the buyers want, then that really works out well for you. And as I always say, everyone's situation is their own and unique to them. So if you've been thinking about buying, selling, or buying and selling, I'm happy to help you craft a plan that works with you, works for you, and works with your timeline to the best that we can. So as always, give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. Thanks for watching.